everyone else, I'll just say hello. Hello, I'm Abigail. And the other lady who keeps speaking is Christine, who you'll meet fully in a few moments. So I'm Abigail. I'm a trustee of Friends of Rowntree Park. I do a lot of sort of the charity manager role, but I'm also involved a lot with children and the education side. After sort of many years of being a teacher and an assistant head teacher in deprived schools in Doncaster. And Christine, do you want to introduce yourself? Oh, just wait.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's working, sorry.
So I'm Christine. I'm a Forest School practitioner running the Rowntree Park Forest School, which is obviously in the park. And I know some of you are on here that actually attend the Forest School, which is lovely to see. And I also run Forest School at schools and for families in various places. So hopefully we'll get to grips with a little bit about what Forest School is today.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do today is Andrew, could you just bring your phone over here? We're going to do a little video which will explain a little bit more about Forest School, and then afterwards Christine's going to sort of talk a little bit more, and there's a chance to sort of ask her any questions or have a bit of an informal chat. So if I can work out the technology, we'll start with a screen share.
Stop it. How? The top screen. Stop the share. You need to turn the sound on.
Just wait a sec. Go on.
Oh, we had it, but it's just gone.
No, it's all right. I'm just sorting out the sound. It's technical and everything. Right, ready?
So I'm Christine, I'm a Forest School practitioner and I run children and adult events in Rowntree Park. So Forest School, it's more of an ethos rather than a particular type of learning, if you like. So it's about bringing the children out, it's about using the outdoors as a platform for learning. So when the children come out, it's different every time. The weather changes, the wildlife changes, the seasons change. So what we see is lots and lots of things that the children can notice and can learn from. And it's particularly evident with the little ones. So if you're learning to walk and you're in a house, then you've got a nice flat carpet that you're walking on. If you learn to walk in the forest, it's much more uneven. So you're working with your core skills of balance. We're developing all those great gross motor skills. And what we do is we're looking at the children at where they are at that point in their development. So we only take small groups. We make sure we can get to know every single child that comes through, and we try and work so that we're always stretching them and giving them something that's in their interests, but just a little bit further to keep them growing and developing. One of the great things that Forest School is really good at developing in children is that sense of resilience and the confidence that comes with that. So we'll have children, I've had children where we've come out, particularly with schools, and they've said, it's raining, we can't come out, it's raining, we're going to get wet. And I just say to them, well, have you ever danced in the rain? Have you caught raindrops on your tongue? And they're like, no, and then off they come. And it's almost like we're saying to them, you're invincible, you can come out in the rain. And they do, and they love it, and it helps them. It's not just resilience in the sense of let's do something that we don't really want to do or we don't really know how to do. It's resilience in the sense of coming out and looking at things from a different point of view. So you're not enduring it, you're seeing the good in it, you're seeing the joy in it, and you're actually embracing.
Well, we're both at home full time, so we absolutely love spending as much time out of the house as possible. even more so, you know, since the coronavirus crisis. But yeah, we've just always loved being out among the trees. It's very calming. It's good for your mental health. It's good for your physical health. And Rufus absolutely loves looking at the different leaves. You know, he knows like a sycamore, he knows oak, he knows, his knowledge is just growing every day, so it's amazing.
I like a sycamore. Sycamore, 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 sycamore.
One of the key things I think when we talk about Forest School is we're saying that there is no right or wrong. The children can, as I say, it's personalised learning, so the children can pick up what it is that they're interested in and they keep going at it. And we never say to them, oh, stop that, or that's not the right thing to do. We just let them keep trying, and we'll help them if they need some help, and if they don't need help, we'll let them carry on. And in that way, they learn that perseverance, that concentration, that just keeping and going, and eventually they will get to where they want to go. It might not look like what I want it to look like, but as long as it looks like what they want it to look like, then they're happy.
I think what surprised me about coming to these sessions is how much they get out of it. It isn't necessarily just about what they're doing, so it's about taking risks and trying new things and doing things that they didn't know they were capable of.
Lots of risk taking in Forest School, so everything, you know, we don't know what the weather's doing, we don't know if it's going to be slippy underground, we don't know if the branches are going to be pointing out, so we try and keep it so the children have to assess their own risk. So I have two rules: be kind and stay safe. And I always say to the children at the start of the session, what does that mean today? Now, if it's the middle of winter, they might say, oh, it's slippy on the ground. If it's the height of summer, they might say, oh, we might get sunburn. But what I'm encouraging them to do is to look for themselves and say to themselves, what is it that we need to do to make ourselves safe in this situation? And that teaches them to assess their own risk. So they climb a tree, they can climb as high as they want, as long as they feel safe. Obviously, I will watch them and make sure they're not going to land on their head. But it's about putting that control into the children's hands. And with putting that control into the children's hands, we're helping them to get their confidence, to feel that they can make those decisions and that they can choose what they want to do and how they want to do it.
I like Forest School because my little boy loves it so much. He really likes exploring outside. He likes being outside in all different sorts of weather. And so Forest School kind of forces us to get outside, whatever the weather is really. This morning he's been using a drill to make a spider out of a conker. And at the moment he's busy with a hammer bashing pegs into a pumpkin to carve a pumpkin face, and it's really amazing seeing what tools he can use that I didn't think he'd be able to. So he's used a hand drill this morning, he's using a hammer. He's not quite 3 and he's quite happy bashing holes in his pumpkin and doing a really good job with it. So it's great to give him an opportunity to try out different things that I might not think to experiment with at home, and to do all of that outside, and he loves it, which is the main reason that we come.
So children develop confidence in Forest School, I think, because I act as a facilitator, not as a teacher. So I let the children tell me what they want to do. I'll ask them questions to try and prompt their thinking and to get them to think about how they might solve that particular problem. And then as they gain the confidence in trusting their own judgment and trusting what their hands and their brains can do, then they have that faith in themselves that gives them the confidence to keep going. So we've got 3 main groups. So we've got the preschool group, which is for little children up to about the age of 5. Then we've got a primary age group, which runs on a Saturday, and they come into the park and learn different skills, Forest School type skills. And then we've got a homeschool group at the moment. So we also have some schools who come in and do school trips with us. So we do things like a Stone Age day, or maybe do something about the Vikings, or nature-based activities. And sometimes we run adult sessions, particularly around kind of nature-based crafts.
I enjoy Forest School because there's lots of different activities to do and you do it with your friends. And you also meet lots of new people.
Most of our sessions are family sessions, so we encourage the parents or the grandparents or other carers to come along and to work with the children. We find that really helps the children because it means that they can then take that learning and they can take it home. So I've just finished a session now where we did some knife work, and one of the dads was working with the child, and they're going to go home and he would like to have his own knife for his birthday. But they can do that because the dad has worked with him to understand the safe way of handling that knife, and it means they can extend their learning and they can do that at home. And we find a lot of the time the children will go from one session and then they'll come back to the next one and they'll show me something that they've learnt at home, or if we've done about birds, they might tell me about some birds that they've seen in their garden, and just it helps because it helps to build and to keep that conversation going. And that way nature and forest school learning doesn't just happen at forest school, it happens throughout the whole week in their lives.
When we were doing woodworking, we used bill hooks and mallets. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so usually we base each session around a theme, and that might be a seasonal theme, or it might be an animal or a plant theme, or it might be something to do with a celebration event that's happening at the time, so maybe Easter or something. And we bring a range of equipment to every session so that the children have got lots of choice over what they want to do, and we like the children to have that choice. That's important to them, and some children will spend a long time on something and some children will spend a short time on something. We usually have a slack line, good for balancing. We always have magnifying glasses. Everybody loves magnifying glasses and finding all the little bugs and mini beasts that are around. We usually have some sort of craft. We might do tool work, particularly with the older children. We often do sort of bushcraft type skills. So we're learning to light fires, we're learning to use saws and drills and hammers, we're learning to make rope, we're learning to tie knots, all those sorts of things that the children wouldn't normally do in their everyday life, but they can do here. And again, because it's different, it really helps to build that confidence. It's got that level of risk that children really like and really helps them to grow.
Well, at the moment he's just loving water, so anything to do with puddles or mixing things together, making potions, which is what we were doing about 20 minutes ago. Yeah, he just loves getting his hands dirty basically. So yeah.
So we're using the learning to help the children understand and appreciate nature. Just by being in nature, they learn about it because they see things change all the time. But we will explore different parts of the park to help them to see different aspects of it. And one of the reasons we do this is because we believe that children need to know this. They need to know this to be able to want to protect it, to respect it, to want to look after it into the future. And I think, we found that there's been a National Trust survey fairly recently which looked at how many people understood or could name different parts of nature, and it was surprisingly few. So we've got a bit of a responsibility, I think, to help to pass on that knowledge so that the children have it and grow with it. We use the park. We're in an urban city centre park. We're not in a woodland. We are in a woodland, but we're in a city centre. We're not in the countryside. We haven't driven 6 miles out of town or whatever. We are right here, right in the heart of where these children live. And I think that's important because if you look around this space, we've got all sorts that lives here. We've got kingfishers in the beck, we've got badgers, we've got some foxes that come through, we've got loads of squirrels, loads of birds. We had baby tawny owls this year, all the different types of trees that we've got. So we've got all sorts here, and it's right on the children's doorstep. So looking after the environment doesn't just mean saving polar bears. It's about saving squirrels right here, and that's very real and very practical for the children because they can see those things. They know that they can maybe put some food out for the birds, or they can not stamp on some insects that come past, because we're showing them that it's worth respecting, it's worth protecting.
We start off with our forest school names. Example, I'm Rowan Rat because R and R.
Being outdoors in the open space, it's really good for mental well-being, really good for cognitive development. There is a lot of evidence that says that being outdoors helps with your sort of anxiety levels, that whole noticing nature. It creates a nice calmness that is really helpful for learning.
I like making the fires. That's my favourite part. We enjoyed using the knife, the tree saw. That's what mainly though.
Yeah, the knife and the tree saw tended to be the most common thing we had. We also used essentially an axe at one point to cut some of the larger logs that we used. I made like a wooden dibber for a Christmas present.
I created a book and a table and chairs, and I thought they were really cool. I gave the table and chairs to my granny because I thought it'd be a nice present. Tiny table and chairs, not a big one. Well, today we started off with a den building activity, and now we were chopping vegetables. We're going to be making soup.
So almost every session, apart from in the height of summer, we will finish with a fire. And we'll either use that fire for cooking, so we might make some bread, or we might bake some apples or something like that. Obviously always have marshmallows and hot chocolate. But the idea of that is that it brings everyone back together, and we come back round into our log circle to have our fire, and we'll quite often have a little chat about what we've seen that day, what we've learned that day, maybe something that we're glad about, something that we're happy about, and it really brings that community back together. So one thing I have found with Forest School is that community aspect is very important. Parents get to know each other, children get to know each other, and they really bond. And I think that the fire and the food is a key part of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying, isn't there? I think it's like a Scandinavian saying, there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. So we make sure we've always got the full gear on, and yeah, we come out whenever we can, really.
Actually, the reason people come to Forest School is because it's fun, because it's really good fun, and we play and we laugh and we forget about our worries for a while, and we learn loads of good stuff, and we just have loads of fun. And marshmallows.
Marshmallow!
Hello again. Let me just check this is working. So thank you for joining us. This was all about Forest School in Rowntree Park. So we're just showing a quick video, which is Christine, our Forest School practitioner, talking about Forest School principles, ethos, and what we get up to in Rowntree Park. I'm now going to pass over to Christine, who's going to talk a little bit more about it. And after that, we can have a quick informal discussion if anyone's got any questions. You don't have to, but just in case you want to. So over to you, Christine.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. What I'll do, we've covered quite a lot of it in that video, a lot of the things about what Forest School is and why we do it. I'm hoping that we've got to the point where we think that it is much more and not just mud and mayhem. I certainly feel like it's much more, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it, and hopefully you will too. I have got a few slides that I will talk through, but what I will say is, if you want to ask any questions, if you want to pipe up, just switch yourself off mute and ask away. If you'd rather use the chat function, there is a chat. I mean, I assume a lot of people have used Zoom now, but if on the top of your screen, you will have a chat function, it might be under your more button. And then Abigail, you're on mute, love. Okay, so yeah, if you just pop it in your chat function, then hopefully Abigail will pick it up if I don't spot it, and we'll get your questions answered. So Abigail, would you like to pop me a slide up? If you can, it's all technically sound. So just go up to the first one. That's not the first one. Bear with us, it's coming. So what I thought I'd do is I would talk through the Forest School principles. So the Forest School principles basically govern everything that we do. And, you know, as you do your training, just got to the top of that stack. So Forest School training, it takes about a year to do. And there are basically 6 principles which underpin everything we do. And I find these really, really useful. So when I'm going out, when I'm doing Forest School with schools, when I'm doing it in the park, these are the things which I always have in the forefront of my mind. But I think, I mean, not all of them, but I think they do apply both in that kind of that kind of learner setting where you've got the learners together working with a Forest School practitioner, but there's a lot of this that you can apply at home. So if your child loves being outdoors, then a Forest School approach might well work for you. So we just move on to the first principle, which is the next slide, which is, so principle 1, this is often the hardest one actually, is that it's a long-term process and it's regular and it's frequent. So it's not just a one-off, you know, oh, we've gone to the woods today and we've used a saw, we've done Forest School. It doesn't quite work like that, because a huge part of the ethos of Forest School, and it is an ethos, it's a way of learning, is about getting to know the children, about really getting to know them, really understanding them as individuals. And we try and keep the numbers low because of that. So we normally wouldn't go higher than sort of 14, 15 in a group. And that helps us to get to know every single one. They come back each week. These guys on the photos, they're some of our long-term Forest Schoolers. I think they've been coming for over a year now, more than that possibly. And they have grown so much in that time. And for me, you know, I see them one week, I might look at them, you know, I might see there's a little boy in the middle there who's really enjoying cooking, or was really enjoying cooking. Obviously we haven't run any in lockdown. So the mud kitchen worked really well for him. And then it's, you know, well, okay, he's really enjoying stirring and he's enjoying putting things in. What can we bring to push that, to develop that a little bit further? You know, what kind of movements, is it gross motor, is it fine motor, what sorts of things is he learning in that? Another example on there, you know, we've got a little girl there who's toasting a marshmallow. At one time she was really scared of that fire. She was absolutely terrified. It probably took her 3 or 4 weeks of just sitting and watching the fire till she felt confident enough to go a bit closer. So often, especially with the younger children, these things don't happen overnight. Lots of children need time to just be there, to just soak it up, to make it familiar. And then gradually they'll become little Forest School experts and knowing all the trees and toasting all the marshmallows and being little superstars. So I think if it is something that, you know, you are wanting to do more of, just do it a lot. You know, go out whenever you can, point to a leaf whenever you can, take a few bits and pieces in your bag. I've got, we usually have a magnifying glass at least in my handbag, if not a saw or a pair of pruners or something like that, just because the kids, my 2 kids, really like having a bit of a poke about when they're out. The next principle, if we just pop onto principle 2, and the next principle talks about where we are. So we're in a woodland. This is my site. So this is Rowntree Park, my site, I say it's the council's. So this is Rowntree Park. So you can see we've got a lovely log circle in the middle, which is really nice because we've got space for the children to gather and we can all sit around and we can see each other and we can share whatever it is that we want to share. So sometimes the children will want to share something, or I'll want to talk to them, or maybe we just want to eat something around the fire. But that's where kind of the hub is. So everything happens there. You can see on the my right hand side, there's a little bridge. So we've got a little beck on the other side of that wall, which is nice. Some of the older kids like to play in that. And then we've got a field to the other side. So we've got a real mix of environments. And it's called Forest School. This is not a forest, it's a woodland. It's not even much of a woodland. You know, there's not a huge amount of trees there. But really, I mean, Forest School just applies to the natural environment. And the idea behind that is that you can use the natural environment as a teacher. So you can see in the bottom, we've used some leaves to make a picture. And I'm not quite sure what that's meant to be. Maybe a dog or something. You know, we do a lot of identification. And we've used the conkers there to make those lovely little conker creations. One's a goat and the other one's a little man. And so wherever possible, I do try and say, right, what have we got? Oh, it's autumn. Let's play with the leaves. Oh, it's spring. We've got some flowers. You know, we can maybe cook something with some wild garlic. And so I try and look to the environment to be the teacher. But equally, we're looking and saying, well, what's our ecological impact of being in this space? And part of that is helping the children to understand what's our ecological impact of being in the space. So if we've got older children and we're maybe doing green woodworking, we'll be thinking about, well, should we be cutting some green wood from this tree? What happens to it? Now, normally we choose hazel, and hazel's great. So if you are wanting to do a bit of green woodworking, look for hazel. Hazel's great because it really responds well to coppicing. So one thing the children know is that if they chop right from the bottom of a hazel tree that I have identified for them, don't want them chopping the whole part down, they can coppice that and it will grow back. Not immediately, obviously, but in a few years it will grow back. Lovely straight wood, really good for whittling into. The kids really enjoy that. So they in that one simple thing, at least they know what hazel tree is, even if they don't know anything else. But they can identify a hazel tree, they know what it's used for, and then they've kind of got a bit of a relationship with the environment because of that. So I find that quite useful. And again, if you're out and about, you know, spotting trees, so it's really quite handy just to pop a magnifying glass in your pocket, or maybe if you've got one of these apps on your phone, like we think, oh, I've forgotten what mine's called now. I'm looking for it. Is it a CCAP? Anyway, there's lots of apps where if you wave them at a tree or a leaf or a animal, in fact, it will try and identify it for you, and that's quite fun. Sometimes it gets it wrong, but it's still quite fun. With the next principle, we'll just zoom through it. So holistic development of all those involved. This is all about your resilience, your confidence, your independent and your creative learners. I love this holistic element of it. This is looking at the whole child. And this is where, I mean, when we work in schools, it's really come out, because actually what I'm doing at the moment with COVID is I'm working with schools on the children's well-being. So I am delivering a bit of curricula, but actually really I'm not that bothered about what they take away from that. What I'm bothered about is that when they leave, they are happy, that they feel as though they've had an hour, 2 hours totally away from having to wear masks or line up in corridors or be in different spaces to other people or face different direction because COVID's always there. And my absolute fundamental reason at the moment for Forest School is to give those children that time away from COVID. And obviously we can't get away from COVID. We have to wash our hands. We have to make sure that we're keeping distances, and you know, but we're outside, and it's a lot easier to do all that when you're outside. And I think that's where, I mean, I know all teachers are doing the same, but I think really focusing on the holistic part of that and really bringing to the fore what does that child need right now is really important. And we've got some pictures there. So we've got the children in hammocks, because sometimes you just need to hang out and chill, chat with your friends. And they do enjoy doing that. We've got some little tool work going on. So that's really good for fine motor. So when we're thinking about the cognitive, the physical development of the children, you know, having that sort of fine motor work, that detailed work is really good for getting those brain linkages going. We've got some teamwork there. There's they look actually developing trails on that bottom corner picture. They had some sort of ancient route markers, and they were making them with sticks and stones and challenging each other to go and find some treasure. So a lot of really good social skills going on there, a lot of good communication. The little girl, you might notice in her little box, has a dormouse. That's Dozy Dormouse, who quite often comes to Forest School in the autumn, because it's really important that she has a really cozy place to hibernate. And in that, we're obviously teaching about the nature of hibernation, but actually what we're trying to do as well is to explain that we need to care for people. And And that's quite a hard social skill, I think, when you're a toddler, because you don't always think about everybody else. But often with toddlers, if you give them a soft toy or a little person or even a plastic animal, they can play with that and they can care for it and they can make a little home for it. And the children will go around and we'll put Dozy in her little hibernating spot. We'll all be like, shh, Dozy's asleep. So it's just, in its tiny little ways, it's thinking about how do we develop the whole child? How do we develop all of it, from the emotional, the spiritual, the cognitive, physical, social behaviors, the language, all that stuff. Just always trying to look for different ways whilst building on what the child's interested in, but just getting all those learners with all those wonderful skills that take such a lot of time to develop. Principle 4, this is the risk one. Now, when people think forest school, they think knives. Basically, they think, all right, we're going to have a fire and we're going to whittle with knives. We're taking risks, and we are taking risks. These aren't the things that children normally play with. Hopefully they don't play with fire and knives at home. Well, only in a controlled way. And that tool use is often one of the reasons why children love to come to forest school, because it feels grown up, it feels a little bit dangerous, feels a little bit like you're doing something that is really special, and it gives them a lot of confidence to do things that feel a bit grown up, a bit dangerous. The reality is it's a very controlled risk. So when we bring them to forest school and we teach them to use these tools, we are teaching them how to use these tools safely. We're watching them, they've got their own space around them, first aid kits ready just in case. But it is a controlled environment. So we're teaching them to use it safely. And I said on the video, a lot of the tool work, and I know a lot of other practitioners are doing similar in that they're teaching tool work as a family thing, because actually it comes with practice, that sort of muscle memory. It's not that easy to say, right, here's how to use a knife safely, and then that's the end of it, and off the child goes, or even the adult goes and then practices it with never ever having somebody come back and check in that that's what they're doing is safe and effective. So by doing a family session, you're teaching both the adult and the child, which means that when they get home, they're in a position to do that. But I think risk goes further. So for me, there's a risk element in the physical risk of using a saw, using a knife, using fire. But we're also looking at, again, the holistic development of the child. So we're also looking at the emotional risk. So sometimes it's actually really hard for a child to put themselves into a situation which feels a little bit scary. And that might be scary, I don't know anyone, or it might be scary, I'm a little bit scared of heights and I don't know if I want to climb that tree. Or it might be, I don't like the dark and you're asking me to wear a blindfold. Or it might be, you're asking me to trust someone else and I don't really know that person. And I've only ever really trusted my parent, and some children don't even have that. So it's about looking at where the child is now. And when we try and take these risks, we are really thinking, is this right for the child at the moment? Is this the right thing for them to do? But then how can we support them in taking that risk? So how can we support a child in trusting another child so that then it becomes comfortable and it becomes an okay thing to do? And as going back to the schools work, we are, at the moment, I'm working on physical risk, because I think the physical risk is controllable. And in a COVID world where you don't really know what's coming, it's like the monster under the bed for a child. You can't see it, you don't really know what's happening. To give them some practice in risks that they absolutely can control is a good thing. Now, right now, I would not be trying to get the children to take emotional risk. I think they're dealing with enough on their plate at the moment. And not every child's the same, obviously, but again, it's looking at where the child is now and what is important to them. Where do we need to push them or not push them, as the case may be. A couple more principles, the last couple, I think. Yeah, so if you're running a forest school, the Forest School Association principle says that it should be run by a qualified practitioner. That's because you spend a lot of time learning the ethos, you spend a lot of time learning about child behaviour, child development and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, obviously they want that to be embedded within an actual forest school. Not really applicable if you're at home, because you're dealing with your own child and you know your own child really well. And then the last principle, principle 6, is about using a range of processes. So we're thinking about, how does a child learn? So some children are like adults. Some children learn by reading things. Some children learn by listening to things. Some children learn by doing. Some children will have an interest in one thing and absolutely zero interest in something else. So what I try and do is offer them a range of things. So, you know, we'll have little workstations, lots of different things for people to do. And the children will choose, and they'll choose what they want to do, and we'll watch them. And it's, you know, it's really good, especially with the little ones, where we've got the parents supporting them. You know, they will help them, and we're encouraging them, and we're scaffolding, so that, you know, they might try something and it'll be a little bit too difficult. With a little bit of help, then they can manage it, and so on, and so they grow. And I love it when people take things home. So you can see there, the girl with the pink tablecloth, that's actually Abigail's daughter, who has whittled all these amazing foxes and toadstools at home. So she's learnt her knife skills, and she's taken them away, and she's sat, I think she did this in lockdown, she spent a long time just working away and really developing her skills and coming up with these beautiful creations. Very impressed. So I think that's it on the principles. We haven't got any questions? I haven't checked the chat. No, that's good. Well, it's not good. If you want to ask questions, please ask questions. I have brought a few bits and pieces, if that's useful, that I can share with you. If you're, I don't know who we've got, whether we've got people who are wanting to do forest school with their children at home, whether we've got other practitioners, whether we've got teachers, or just people who love the environment. So do shout if there's something you're interested in that I'm not talking about. But I did bring a collection of my favourite books, which have just fallen on the floor. So, right, let me see. So I've got a couple of books that have just got some ideas in. So can you see that? This one is Play the Forest School Way. It's not my most used book, but I do like it. So it's got lots of different ideas in there of things you could maybe just take on a walk. It's very kind of family orientated. Little games like memory games in here. Magic wands are popular. You know, take a stick. You can take a stick anywhere, make it into anything you like. Some little arts and craft things like making some woodland jewellery there. So there's some really nice ideas in that. That's good. This one is out of print, but I brought it because I love it. You still can get secondhand copies of it. It's called Go Wild. It's by Joe Schofield and Fiona Danks. They've written quite a few books, and to be honest, every one that I've had has been really good. So I totally recommend Joe Schofield and Fiona Danks. This Go Wild one is a real mix of things. So they've got a Make It Wild one, and they've got a games one. This one's got a real mix of things that you can do at home. So there's a bit about foraging, there's a bit about fire, some nice stuff on tools and weapons, because who doesn't like a good weapon? Certainly my children love weapons. We have a garden full of pointy sticks that are quite lethal. An atlatl. Never made one of those, but maybe I should. What else have we got? We've got knots, we've got water stuff. There's all kinds. That's a really good book. Totally recommend that one if you can get hold of a copy. Also by them is the Wild Yearbook. This is organised in terms of seasons, so there's lots of different bits and pieces in there. Again, I like it. It's just slightly different from your sort of standard stuff. I can't really. Yeah, look at that, Wild Book Day. Who wouldn't want to read a book? Wouldn't read a book in the wild like that? It'd be awesome. So lastly, I have got my other absolute favourite book, which is this one by Richard Irvine. It's Forest Craft. This is an fabulous whittling book. I don't think there's anything better. I may be wrong. If you've seen it, let me know, because I would love it. But I think this is a really good book. It goes through, in fact, I think Ida's whittling came from this book. So it goes through how to use a knife safely, somewhere or the other. So it talks about your tools and equipment. It talks about safe usage. And I think Richard Irvine, I've watched a few of his videos and been on some talks with him, and he's a great teacher. So it goes through a lot of that safely, and then it's got some nice projects that are relatively easy, and they're very well explained. Photographs are lovely, so it kind of makes you want to do it. So if you've got a child or yourself who is interested in a bit of woodwork and a bit of whittling, then this is the book. So Forest Craft by Richard Irvine. Now, I did see some chat things come up, so I'm just going to have a quick look. Oh, lots and lots. So, oh, St. Nick's, hi. Oh, I'd love to do things at St. Nick's. That's a great place.
As Rebecca, you might want to have a look at what Rebecca's just written.
Rebecca, parent to an 11-month-old and also a early years teacher's best activities to start with. Okay, so little ones. Little ones, I love stories with little ones. We quite often will start a group with a story. I've got a couple here on my bookshelves. I've got Stickman. Everyone knows Stickman. So if you start with a little one, you can just start with a story. You can maybe take it a bit further. So, get a stick, maybe some pipe cleaners. Got some pipe cleaners. Give him some arms and legs. All right, look at this. Couldn't do it better than that, could I? Anyway, that's allegedly a stick man. I'm sure everyone else can do a far better job. But, if you make a little character or something like that, you can take it out in the woods with you. You can take Stickman on his adventures. He goes off on a river, doesn't he? He goes and sees different things. So I think starting with a story and then taking a story outdoors is a really nice way to get children engaged. Ruth's just come up with mud painting. Yeah, mud painting's great. Bit of water, bit of mud, job done. Yeah, and that's all you need. And to be honest, children will spend it forever. If you then want to try and dye it, not so great this time of year, but in autumn, if you're going to get a few blackberries, mash them up in the mud, then you can get some nice purple paint. There's loads you can do, or powder paint. I mean, I don't know how environmentally friendly it is really, but put a little bit of powder paint or food colouring in your mud, and all of a sudden you've got a whole palette there to play with. Yeah, mud painting's great. Water, they love water, like to play with water a lot. So, pots. I mean, I've got my magnifying glass. These are my little ones' magnifying glasses. To be honest, you can't really see through them. They've been battered around that much, but for some reason, little ones just will spend a long time wandering around holding a magnifying glass, looking at things. So I think, I'm just going to go back to your question. So I think stuff like that is, just getting them out. They will tell you what they're interested in. And it might be as simple as they've found one of those sort of slightly furry leaf plants and the water rolls down it and they'll prod it. And I just think if you just remember to stop when they stop and look at what they're looking, you can't go far wrong really, especially with the tiny ones. Let me see, what else have we got in the questions? So you've had some forest school sessions in York Museums. I did see those advertised, they look nice. But like to learn more.
Can you hear me,
Yeah,
Christine?
thank you.
I was just going to answer. So Freya and Esther at St. Nick's, I think, let me just check. We're just asking, do people pay to come to your sessions? So what I was starting to write, and it was taking me a long time to write, is the Friends of Rowntree Park, we only became a charity last year. Before that, we were just a not-for-profit group. So we're only a really sort of small charity, and we mainly get our funding through people joining as members to the Friends. The Friends, we basically help maintain the park. So council funding over recent years has really, really been cut. We don't have any paid gardeners. We don't have a park keeper. So what tends to happen now is we as a group try and raise money to improve Rowntree Park. So we look after certain areas of the park, and we try and get volunteer gardeners to do that. We run craft events for sort of adults. We run children's sessions. We do art in the park, but we do all of these things as Friends of Rowntree Park. And most of that is funded by us advertising a membership scheme. So we ask people to become a friend of Rowntree Park, and it's only £5 a year. But basically that's the main money that we use to do our stuff. So what we actually have to do is we do actually charge for events that we run, because that again is one of our big fundraisers, and that money goes back to buying equipment for the things that we do, but also goes back into the gardening and the things that we add into the park. So we have events that we run, and Christine's always been very strong on this. When we do children's events, we try not to charge too much. So we have something called the Very Young Friends, which isn't quite Forest School, but it's children, nature and craft sort of stuff. And that's only cost £1. So it's like a token sort of amount to try and cover some of the costs of stuff. And we have that because, you know, we're very big about wanting everyone to be able to access this sort of stuff. Our Forest School does cost a little bit more. We do ask for a sort of a block funding. So it tends to cost £6 for members of Friends of Rowntree Park per session. And that again is covering the stuff, and all the funding goes back into the Forest School and the gardening and the other stuff that we sort of do in the park. So we try and run a range of things, but we also run lots of other children's events, not in 2020, obviously, but we do loads of craft stuff like recycling boat events or den building events or whatever. And we always try and keep the costs down where possible, just to cover costs and raise a tiny bit for the charity, because we want everything to be fairly accessible. The weirdest thing that we have found, although we're really trying to do this local thing, people actually travel to come to our events. We get people from Harrogate and Leeds and things like that, and across the other sides of York. Not as many from the YO23 area, which is who we're trying to originally we're trying to reach. But I don't know if they see Rowntree Park as on their doorstep, and other people see it as a day out or something. So, sorry, I've just gone on a bit, but hopefully that answers some of that question.
We do as well. We have had some grant funding, or we've got some grant funding in place at the moment to work with some disadvantaged groups. So we've got a John Muir Award, which should kick off hopefully in 2021, it's supposed to be 2020, which works with older teenagers to get them engaged in nature. Again, not quite Forest School, but still nature-based learning. And we've done some work with Danesgate as well. That is an area that we are very keen to explore. There's a lot of benefit from children from slightly more disadvantaged backgrounds, because they don't always get so much of this outdoor type stuff. So really keen to do more of that. So if anybody has got a pet project or something that they're interested in, do chat to us, because that is an area that we are keen to explore.
I think it'd be well worth us having a chat. I don't want to dominate this session, but it'd be really good to have a chat. We've been putting in for various different bits of funding, so we just started doing this, like you say, not Forest School, but just starting to do a bit more bushcrafty kind of more kind of nature connected sessions with kids. So we're just exploring. Great. It is great. I don't know if Freya's the rock star on this. I don't know if you want to say something, Freya, but yeah. So we're just exploring. But yeah, so we've not, unfortunately, we haven't got a lovely pot of funding, but we're trying to explore ways of building up our offer. So it'd be lovely to talk to you about.
Yeah, definitely. Just drop us a line and we'll be happy to chat.
Yeah, I was going to say that's really good to do more stuff with disadvantaged kids as well, because some of the families that came to us thought like Forest School was only for like posh kids, or that it was a bit exclusive. So they were really glad that it was something that was accessible to everyone. So I think it's really good to try and work with them as well. So yeah, that's great.
There's a view that Forest School is for little children, and certainly in schools it's often that they'll do it in early years, but they won't roll it out further up at the school. But actually, that all children benefit from it. And there's also, I was reading not so long back as well about a project that someone had been doing, working with girls, teenage girls, and because obviously the social media is a big thing, lots of Instagram, lots of image type stuff, which is quite damaging at that sort of development stage. And they'd done some projects as trials where they'd taken a group of teenage girls out into the woodland, done sort of several blocks of Forest School with them, absolutely away from any boys or anyone who might look at them. Well, anyone, not boys, just anyone. So they were in a really safe place for them. So again, this is about your risks. So for them, the risk of being seen as being muddy and like doing something stupid is quite a big deal at that stage of their life. So again, taking them out of that, putting them into a space where they can get muddy and they can use tools and they can do whatever it is that they particularly want to do at that point was really empowering for them. So stuff like that, I think, is fascinating. Love it.
That's really interesting, because me and my husband were having a big debate about all that sort of stuff yesterday, about how there needs to be more and more events that are female only, because there's so many studies about girls being so changing a lot, especially in the teenage years, out in the public space, and the retreat more to the...
Oh, we've lost you, Abigail. Oh, we've lost her. Hopefully she'll come back. Have we lost everyone? Oh no, you're there, Esther.
I'm here. I was just going to say the feedback we're getting from parents saying
in that's the way. Say what? Sorry.
We lost you. So I just put it in to say you were talking about gender. We were getting feedback from parents saying how good it was to see a woman for their daughters, well, and the boys too, but seeing like when Freya picks up worms and things like that. But they were saying that they were like, yay,
yay. Yeah, let's do it. Let's have a girls-only Forest School for grown-ups and children. That'd be fun. Apologies to any men.
I'm sorry about my connection, but in a similar way, it's like Christine was running events last year, sort of like we did a Wood for Wellbeing, which is a female craft thing. But like we've talked loads about things like girls and mothers working together on things as well, or grandmothers, or the generation thing. But for us, as I mentioned, we are a really small charity and we're actually all volunteers. So we don't get paid for anything that we do. And so it's, there's a limit to the amount we can do. We've got so many great ideas and so many stuff we love to do, but we have to work as well. This is all fun.
I think we're about to time out.
Yeah, I've got to go and pick up my kids from school, to be honest. So if anyone wants to get in touch with us or ask any questions, please do. You can on social media. It's generally me who's on social media. So if you contact us via Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, I'll answer from that. But I'm also hello@rowntreepark.org.uk. So do get in touch. There's a quick question for you, Christine, before we time out.
Yep, just read it. So how can we make sure to teach our children compassion and sympathy for animals? 100%, we absolutely have to. I have to say that none of the bows and arrows the children ever made could possibly, they can't even hit a stand and target, never mind anything else. But we talk a lot to the children about respect for nature, and a lot, if they find a mini beast, we absolutely, don't stamp on the mini beast. Understand that the mini beast is part of a whole eco chain that relies on each other to survive. I don't think we ever really make tools in the sense of hurting anybody. I am thinking there because it's a good question, and it is something that I will be mindful of. I don't think it's an issue, but I will certainly be mindful of it. Thank you. Cool.
Okay, I think we better end because we might just cut out suddenly. But as I said, please do get in touch and thank you for coming along today. I think all these are recorded anyway, so yeah. But thank you. I'm going to end the meeting in a minute. So goodbye and thank you.
All right, thanks everybody. Bye.